Hello, Croeso. Welcome again to a winning Ospreys Eyrie. Apologies from Jack and from Zach for having to put in the hard yards and doing some work. So hope things improve for them soon. All being well, both will be back next week. So hi, Grant and Josh. Feeling better after Saturday?
Oh, fantastic.
Definitely.
Yeah, great. Thank you for joining me. As we did the special last week, there's very little news as we touched upon the arrival of Ryan Smith and Adam Beard. But I think it's news that's been very positively received by our supporters. Obviously, very sorry to see Adam Beard going. And, you're talking to other fans and listening to the other people on our sister podcasts. I think everybody's seen Ryan Smith as a really good signing. So well done, the recruitment team in the Ospreys. Okay. Also, thank you to all the people who listened to our special. Well over 1,000 views, and hundreds have also listened. So thank you very much, and hope you found it useful. Hopefully, the Ospreys will appreciate it, and if it just results in half a dozen more season tickets being sold and a couple of hundred turning up each week, we're home next year. It was worth it. So diolch i pawb. Okay, we'll go straight into it then. Saturday, a win. What did we think of the game? Josh, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, I think it was kind of the perfect opponent for us coming off the back of a couple of losses. It gives the Dragons are probably the most beatable. They are the most beatable team in the league. So yeah, I think it was important to sort of improve confidence because I wouldn't have liked to have gone off the back of those losses straight to South Africa. We did look a little bit leggy, I would say, first half. Sort of followed on from the Cardiff game where quite a lot of errors. We kept Dragons in the game, but then full credit to the boys pulling away second half. It looked like we really put the foot on the throat as well and didn't let up. Rack up that sort of scoreline against any team is impressive. So definitely a lot happier this week than I was last week.
It's almost like a press relief, wasn't it? After the last 2 weeks worth of doom and gloom and us failing to, really ignite. Oh my God! For 10 minutes of Saturday's performance in either of the last two games, the guy would have cheered me up no end because we might have been looking at very different games. But it was just brilliant to see and playing with a bit of confidence again and moving the ball. And Nick, something you've talked about from the start of the season in terms of Dan Casende's ability in the air. It's just transformed the entire game. Kick-off after kick-off, he caused absolute chaos, didn't he?
Yeah, it was great. And in fairness to the Dragons, the first half hour, they gave us a good game. We could sort of feel as if we were banging at the door, getting on top. What I felt, we didn't panic, even though the Dragons were, playing well. I always sort of felt that if we can keep that sort of intensity up, we would come good. And I thought what we did better on Saturday, which we've talked about in other podcasts, is vary the game a little bit. I think the kicking game, as was excellent, both from 9 and 10. And we'll talk about perhaps who's putting the hand up as well for the Welsh selection. But I thought that was evidence that both the starting 9 and 10 had really good games. But again, it was great to get people like Will Griff back. Thought he was very solid when he came on. Spencer was very good. Our try-scoring second row, and it was lovely for Beard as well and his family to sign off in that way. I thought he was very, very impressive, and we've said before that some people perhaps don't always appreciate what a good player he is, and people who know rugby and understand rugby do understand that he's a very, very good player. Who stood out for you two then?
I think Grant mentioned it there. Casande was superb, I thought. Yeah, amazing early. And yeah, that kickoff be interesting to see if other teams kind of spot that out and put an extra lifter in that position because Dan Edwards was hitting that spot every single time and it was giving Casande a one-on-one with no lifter there. I know towards the end they ended up putting a lifter there, but yeah, I thought they were both superb. Boshoff, I thought was really good. I thought he made some really good telling line breaks. He was quiet for the last couple of weeks, so he was brilliant. And Ben Warren was great in the loose. I thought he still needs to potentially work on his scrummaging. That's probably an area of slight concern, but I think lots of players, really put their hand up and perform really well.
Just before I ask Grant the same question, I know one of the hosts some message sometimes from the Sides fans, Sauce fans, who's a prop, and I think Ben Wallen's a converted back row player. And if you notice, sometimes when and I never played in the front row, so I'm only going to what somebody else has said. He doesn't plant his feet; he seems to move his feet. If you look, because he mentioned this to me, and I think it's something I'm sure he's working on with Duncan Jones. He's got one of the best tutors there in the world, so I'm sure that will get better. But he had a very good game. What did you think of the performance of Morgan Morse, Grant?
I thought Morgan Morse, well, you take the 90-meter break out of it, which is just absolutely insane, and you wouldn't see any other back rower around Wales doing anything like that. Okay, I was like Justin Tipperick speed from 10 years ago, the way he's going on the pitch. But you look at the rest of the game, some of the tackles he's putting in. So, he did fairly well this week, in terms of close carries. Normally, he's fairly average in terms of close carries, and he's exceptional everywhere else. But I thought he worked really, really hard and really put his hands up. I think in terms of how long can Wales ignore him?
Think about his next step then in this summer. Would you, I suppose there are three options. One, you just give him the summer off, although he has missed a lot of rugby this year. Yeah. Two, he goes with the first team, like to Japan, or three, goes to under-20s to Italy. Which do you think would be the best option for him where he is in his career?
I think he's progressed past under-20s rugby by some margin now. Yeah, you look at the way he's all right. Talupe Fa'atau has had a couple of great games in the last couple of weeks, but Morgan Morse is ready for the step up. He's got to be tried there now, I think, in terms of that exposure.
Yeah, agreed. I think, I saw in a certain newspaper them tipping Kane James for a call up, I think, who's in the England under-20s, just to get him capped. But I think that puts a massive disrespect on someone like Morgan Morse, who's been doing the hard yards for the Ospreys now. He's been playing consistently at first team level. He's got to be, if you're looking at selecting another back rower, he's got to be the next sort of cab off the rank, and I think he deserves to be capped now. As much, there's also a part of me that thinks, well, if he goes away with the under-20s, it'll help their development because they're more they've got a really strong squad that can compete really well in that tournament. So do they potentially send him away with them, increase their chance of winning the tournament, and we could hopefully bring through a really strong crop of players there? But yeah, I think you're right. He has probably outgrown it on balance, to be honest.
He deserves to go. I think he needs to play more rugby. I think, obviously we're very sorry that Morgan Morris has had this nasty injury, and I hope it clears up quickly. But that's one thing it has allowed him to be a starter, isn't it? And he seems to be getting better. He seems to be making better decisions where he can be a bit impetuous. We're seeing less of that as he's maturing and having more game time.
He's still an under-20s player, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
To be playing at this level, you can see the frustration on his face when he tried the miracle offload or the clever offload. I don't know where you want to put it, when he could have. You had options of just looking inside and passing, or potentially just ploughing directly.
Just ploughing on, set the ruck up. But he'll learn from that, won't he?
Yeah, try the Jeff Asler sidestep.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, going to the halfbacks. There were three halfbacks who perhaps might have hoping to get in the coach, whoever he is, taking the I should it be he taking the Wales team to Japan. Obviously, Rodri Williams has been sort of in the most recent Welsh squad. Very experienced. And then obviously we've got both Ruben, who's been very lucky, in our opinions anyway, not to have been selected for the Welsh squad by now, and Kieran Hardy, who's obviously been a regular in Welsh squads in the past, had some injuries, obviously came over to us. Who do you think put the hand up as to say that, or over a course of a few games, who do you put? I'm assuming Thomas Williams will go as 1-9. Who do you think should be going out of those three? Or two?
Well, hopefully Thomas Williams will be with the Lions, but I think you're right. He might not. That's probably a 50-50 selection with Ben White potentially. But yeah, if Thomas Williams isn't going, I potentially have Kieran Hardy as my first choice 9. I think having supported the Ospreys, maybe not seen as much of him because he's been playing behind Gareth Davis, I've massively underappreciated how good his kicking game is. I always saw him as a very quick 9, quick thinking, good around the ruck, but his kicking game is superb. He puts so much time for the wingers to chase after kicks. Like that's why Kasande looks so good in the air. Keelan Giles was massively works his aerial game. That's a side point, but yeah, for me, Kieran Hardy might have just put his hand up first choice for me if Thomas is off with the Lions. That is.
Yeah, it was a nice cameo from Ruben as well, wasn't it? You had a nice run at the end. You made some fantastic brace sort of things. Ruben can do, especially against a tired team, and the Dragons started looking really tired and ragged in the last 15 minutes, and then you start seeing people who've got an eye for a break making a huge difference. When you rewinding to Kasende and his ability, it was massively helped by the fact he's probably 2 yards offside at every single time he kicked the ball off. Yeah, I know we see it let go all the time, and normally the crowd let it down to the ref. There wasn't a lot of shouting about this on that side.
No. We're not complaining about it when it's us doing it. Yeah. Okay, you mentioned Keelan Giles. How do you think? Is he potentially? There's been a lot of talk about the Cardiff winger being should be given a chance. Does he deserve a chance more than Keelan?
I'd say Keelan has a more all-round game, in my opinion. I think his nuts and bolts are better. I think Keelan's better aerially. He's massively worked on that. He's not naturally a big guy, but he's very explosive off the floor. He gets really good height, and he seems to be really good at sort of tapping it back. If you can't necessarily get the height to catch it cleanly, even slapping it back. And I think Mark Jones mentioned that they've been working quite hard on those second balls. So anything they sort of tap back, they make sure they've got enough coverage around the ball that they're gonna win those back. And I think we definitely won a lot of those 50-50s and won the aerial battle. We know how dangerous he is ball in hand. Give him a one-on-one with anyone, you'd back him to beat someone in the phone box. So yeah,
it's hard, and it's competitive in terms of wing positions. That you look at the Scarlets back three, okay, and yeah, they're on fire. So it's going to be tough for Keelan to break into that side, but we know what he can do. He can do some magical things, in the phone box, Josh.
Yeah, and sometimes he's been in around squads before and usually picked up an injury. Yeah. So if he can stay fit, I am a believer that sometimes you pick somebody who's. I'm not a great believer in the people that suddenly have one good game or two good games and thrusting them into the international. I think you've got to earn with consistency. But he is consistent. He's good defensively. He's good in attack, excellent in attack. I think if he has, finishes the season strongly and stays fit, he's got to be in the thinking of the coach. Okay, we've had the return of Sam Costello, and I got nothing against Sam Costello. Obviously, hadn't played for a long time, but we've not been. I hopefully don't feel we've been critical of Dan. We just talked that perhaps we haven't always helped him as well as we could, and perhaps allowed him to use his very, very good kicking game as well. I thought I thought he had an excellent game on Saturday, and once he starts running his tight defences, he's got that little bit of pace as well. Where do you rate Dan in the sort of standing as in tens in Wales currently?
Personally, I'd probably have him just behind Costello potentially. I think Costello gets a really hard rap from other fans around Wales, but I think he's superb. I've liked him ever since I saw him around his 20s. I think he is prone to the odd howler, as you saw against Leinster on that. He put that beautiful cross kick in for a try and then got charged down off the very next kickoff. So he is prone to howlers, whereas I'd say Dan Edwards is more steady. I don't see him making those howlers. He's very level-headed. Q a week on Saturday and make an absolute howler now. But yeah, I'd love to see Dan Edwards get a run in the shirt, to be honest with you, especially if Matt Sherritt's the interim coach and they're going to play some attacking rugby. I'd love to see him attacking. He's got a really good change of pace. I think that's a massive USP for him. I don't see many 10s with that sort of pace in Wales. So yeah, and as you say, his kicking game, from someone who's not the biggest, he's not a Prendergast in terms of those long levers. He has a massive kicking game, and also he gets a lot of distance on his line kicks as well, which if nothing frustrates me more than a 10 who just kicks it 10 meters every single line kick, and you have to work hard to work up the field. He properly goes for it, and sometimes it will go bust. But yeah, big fan of Dan Edwards. I hope he does get some minutes in Japan.
Yeah, with 10s playing in Wales, yeah, and you look at Dan Edwards has been in the lead for a while. Okay, with Costello coming back, he does get a lot of criticism, but he's a fairly solid player. You know, in terms of the absolute capabilities, in terms of what one can do above the other. You know, on a good day, Dan can cause absolute chaos on the pitch. You know, the pace, the confidence. Like I say, he's got a really good all-round game. But yeah, we'll see where Wales want to go in terms of a 10.
Yeah, I guess, you know, I would be very surprised if they aren't both selected, if Costello stays fit as well, and obviously Dan. And then it's, as you say, it'll see where they want to go, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else we want to say about the game? Any particular tries that stand out?
In terms of tries, go back to an individual again. It's a very short-lived performance near the end of the game. Harry Deeves' performance when he came on was absolutely. What were the words we used in the interview with him after the game? He came in to see the sports club afterwards. Bonkers was the word. Do you have any? Do you care anything at all about your personal safety? He's like, well, not really, though. He carries well. You know, he's a solid lump of a boy. He knocks people backwards. And in terms of when he's making the breaks, you know, he set up a couple of tries. And what you might not see on TV, you know, if you're at the game, you would have seen it. But when he's putting people into space, he's turning around, okay, and he's like this with the crowd, okay. He's getting the people going, you know, yes, come on, I'm up for it, okay. So it must be really demoralising for the opposition when someone like him comes on for 15 minutes fully revved up at the end of a game. I thought he was great, and he stands a good chance of making it into the Japan tour, I think, just on the fact that he's fresh. He hasn't had a lot of rugby as well. You know, he had his injury problems this year, but the impact he makes in a game is like, right, if you're going to test him out in Japan.
Yeah, no, he was superb, wasn't he? Okay, so we're obviously very, very pleased. And I guess the thing is, we know we've got a huge challenge going to South Africa, and we'll talk about those games more next week. But at least we go with something to play for. And I think after a couple of results, that's all we could have hoped for. Grant, can you tell us a little bit about post-match experience?
We were blessed to have Harry Deeves and Adam Beard come across to be interviewed in the Riverside after the game. It was fantastic to be able to say goodbye to Adam and thank you. He's saying, look, he's making the most of the opportunity right now, given the age of his kids, and if there's a point he's ever going to go abroad for a while, we did suggest to him at least 3 times that he might be going to Montpellier, which he responded with a very straight bat, going, nothing's been confirmed. Okay, I'm not going to say anything, but we have been talking about that for months. You know, he's saying, look, this is the time to go. Potentially, if I'm out there for 2 or 3 years, who knows? I might end up back with the Ospreys, which had a major cheer from the gathered crowd. In terms of Deevesy, apart from the fact he is bonkers, okay, one hell of a guy. We were saying, you know, we see him on social media quite a lot around Pontyclean Rugby Club. He said, well, for a start, I live next door, so I don't have that much choice, really. But he made a point when we finished the interview. He took the mic back and said, like, I want to say a few words about Adam. You know, you don't realise how important he is to the club in terms of his knowledge, his experience. He's coaching the rest of the team almost as well. Okay, and the amount of respect he's got from the entire so the forwards, okay, is absolutely immense. So it's a real mark of a player when you got your colleague standing alongside you who's known for being quite flippant and funny to suddenly serious up and say, what a great guy, what a great player that Beardy is.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, we don't know, they didn't, for different reasons, who's actually leaving. We haven't had a leavers list yet, but perhaps that's something we can talk about in a future podcast. Before the Dragons games, obviously Mark did his post-match interviews and he always speaks so well, but he did do an interview just in the lead up to the Dragons game, which, Josh, did you see that one?
Yeah, I did.
What did you think of that interview?
I don't know. It was hard to know how to read it because he did sort of, hint at the fact we potentially made a couple more signings that were due to be announced. So hopefully it's be announced in a couple of weeks. But then he also went on to say that the priority was retaining players, and then if they have the chance after that to bring in some quality, once they know what their budget is and once they know what they can afford, they'll do that. So whether they're actual new signings or whether they're re-signings, I don't know. But yeah, it sounds like there's a couple more announcements still to be made. And he did hint at a couple more on top of that, didn't he?
Yeah, he sort of, if I remember rightly, he said something about we've got players in the pipeline who are almost, we're just looking for the right moment to announce. And then he saw, and I maybe I'm putting two and two together here, making five. He mentioned there might be people who might come in who would further strengthen the squad. And I thought immediately of the Wales Online report last week about Evan Daniel, the hooker, third choice hooker at Cardiff. He might be an example where, okay, he'd be useful, but we could get by without him as well. No disrespect to that player. So maybe that's the type of thing he was referring to, but all will be revealed. Okay, we'll go over then to Grant, if that's okay. And if he's ready, we'll do the regional results from Australia.
Starting off, again, is right at the tail end of the season now. Okay, there's not that many games. We're just wrapping up the normal league fixtures. Bridgend Athletic 29, Skewin 36, good away win for Skewin. You just started sharing the screen, have you?
Yeah, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry.
I just looked down and looked up, and the screen had changed. Okay,
sorry.
In the other game in League One West, Central Birchgrove 19, Built Wells with a big away win there, 56 points. National League 2 West Central, Hewell Q 21, Brynarman 10, Porthcawl 42, Abercrave 12. National League 3 West Central, biggest win of the weekend, Carmarthen 71, Bridgend Sports 12, 59-point winning margin. So yeah, Ospreys didn't come top of that game this weekend, did we? Moving on to National Championship West, Dunvan 27, Glynneath 32, good away win for Glynneath there.
Good game.
Yeah, local derby, Gosainen 24, Gowton 23. Local derby, only a point as well. Yeah, hopefully it was a beautiful free-flowing game and it wasn't quite angry, which it might well have been. Moving on, Kenfig Hill winning at home 29-24 against Tondee.
Okay.
Tartar Steel with a good home win 47-7 against Maesteg Quins.
And is that the league? That's the one the Llanelli Wanderers, who, if they win all their games in hand, probably going to take the league, isn't it, Grant?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So, looking at the remaining fixtures, I don't think those games have been confirmed when they are yet, unless it's been announced in the last couple of days. So, yeah, fingers crossed for Tartar there. Final game in National Championship West. Another derby, Trebanos 24, Ystalafero 19. So a bit of a comeback from Trebanos, I've heard there, from my colleague in the office next to me.
Is Tip still doing any coaching up there?
He's fairly involved with the club, yeah. Finally, the WRU Premiership, Bonamine 14, Neath 26, good away win for Neath to finish off the season. So that concludes the results.
Thank you very much, Grant. So apologies if I put you off there. Okay.
It's fine.
Obviously, we've played all our home games this year. I'm not going to go into depth unless you boys want to particularly, but I put together a bit of a table just to summarise our games at home this season. Obviously, and it's been, I've got a quiz question for you. Over the last 2 years, I think we've played at our home games at 7 venues. Obviously, one of those was Judgment Day. One of those is Swansea.com. Can you name the other venues we've played home matches at? Sorry to throw this in again.
We were at the Stoop.
Yes, I wasn't sure if anybody remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 people who went there don't remember the end of the game, but I was there. I remember the game.
Cardiff City Stadium.
Cardiff City Stadium. Well done, Josh.
How many have we got left?
We've got 2, I think.
Bridgend.
Bridgend, and 1 more.
Well, pre-season in St Helens.
Yes, please. No, this is a match that's played this year, and in 10 years' time, no one probably will get this. It was a cup match. A cup match. What's it called? The Challenge Cup match. In because of bad weather, we had to leave the Swansea.com.
Yeah, I was there as well. Park Scarlet. Yeah.
Those are a good set of questions.
What a great pub quiz that is, Nick.
That's definitely not.
Okay, so in summary, we've had 13 home games, 9 in the USC. Obviously, we've had 4 Challenge Cup games, including the one at Park Scarlets. Overall, our season, we've had won 9, lost 4, and if we just go look at the league, we've won 6 games and lost 3. And as I say, those are where the games are played. We've average points scored 31, average points conceded 21. I'm going to say that is skewed slightly from the game, our home game at the stadium on Judgment Day. And now, I'm not saying we'd have won, but I don't think we'd have conceded as many tries if that had been in Swansea. But there we are. That skews out a little bit. So we average about 4.3 tries per game at home, and about 2.5 the opposition has scored. So, looking back at the season, the home games, and as a season ticket holder, Grant, were you entertained? To use going back to Toby's term?
Massively. We've really, it was a slow start of the season, but we've had a lot of home games as well in the second half of the season, and we've played some fantastic rugby. Again, we've had the odd horrendous hiccup away. Things like Zebra, Dragons. They always seem to pop out every year in terms of like banana skins for us. But in terms of the way we're playing at home this year, why would you not go and watch the Ospreys play if you got an option to go and do it? It's been really great. It might be small crowds, but if you're sitting in the middle of the stand, okay, in either the blocks each side of the halfway line, it's a fairly noisy little group there as well. So yeah, it's been really good this season.
Yeah, you can see that group of players maturing. Josh, what's been your view? Good season, home matches?
Yeah, really good, really good. I guess, looking at the trend as well, since Mark Jones came in, we've definitely seemed to be scoring more points, as we've alluded to, more offloads as well, more attacking rugby. It'll be interesting to see how these sort of stats differ when we move to St Helens, because obviously the Liberty's a beautiful pitch for a start. I know we're going to get the artificial surface at St Helens anyway, but St Helens is a lot more open to the elements. It's near the coast. It's going to be windy. How much? It's going to be wet. So it'll be interesting to see how these sort of points scored maybe changes when we move stadium. But this season, I've been really happy. Amazing brand of rugby, and hopefully it'll materialise into good attendances next season.
Josh, I think those 3 or 4 years you spent living in Swansea, you were just particularly unlucky with the weather, obviously, because that's not the normal climate at all.
I was going to say, I saw on the stadium plans, it always seemed to be sunny weather. I was like, I've never seen that weather in Swansea ever.
Okay.
Yeah, Saturday was really good, wasn't it? Yeah, it was exceptionally. We've had a couple of days where we sat there and just burnt like crisps, sitting there watching a game of rugby. It was nuts.
So we're not be accused of being overly positive. Is there any game there you think, oh, that wasn't a great performance?
Oh, for me, forget Cardiff. I don't count that as a home game at all.
No.
That's a spectacle, not a home game. The Lyon game was such a disappointing. I don't know a worse game, but just disappointing because we've been revved up for the last few months. You know, we were on a really, really good run, but the only loss against Leinster since back in October, and then we just misfired completely. It was really demoralising, and well, it showed a week later, didn't it, when the next game.
What about you, Josh? Anything left? Any games you thought? Oh.
Yeah, I think Lyon's definitely the one that I'd be most disappointed with. I'd say on top of that, I was at the Leinster game and it just felt maybe like one that got away. But I didn't walk away from that disappointed by any means because it was such a good performance against such a strong Leinster team. But it definitely felt like that was a game we could have won. And maybe at the end of the season, we'll look back on a few of those games and say, you know, if we maybe, pulled out the 4 points, we might be closer to the playoffs.
Yeah, I got a slightly different one. I thought I was disappointed because one of our strengths has been our physicality. We were just bullied by the Bulls early on in the season, and then we came back into the game. But in reality, the Bulls had done enough in 20 minutes to make sure they had the result. I don't think we've not witnessed that at home since, and I think they'll have hopefully learned from that when they do play those really physical teams in the future. Okay, turning to the positives. Which game did you enjoy the most?
I'll kick off with. I don't want exciting. I don't want stressed out. Okay, I can't claim Connacht was the best game I've seen because it felt like it was heart attack territory. But if you look at how we performed against Benetton with a 43-0, what an exceptional performance to nil a team like Benetton. Okay, that in terms of like all round nailing the performance, that ticked every box for me. Nil in Benetton is like a major achievement.
Gosh.
It's hard to look past both Scarlets games. It's always nice to beat your rivals. But yeah, I'd say if I had to pick between the two of them, obviously the latest one was a bigger scoreline, but I just thought the one just before Christmas, because I think we were off the back of maybe a disappointing run. At that point, I think we'd recently lost to Montpellier quite heavily away.
Yeah.
And I did feel like Scarlets were probably the better team on the night, but that means nothing because all that matters is the scoreboard. And to nick it the way we did with Justin Hopkins scoring at the end, I think it doesn't get much better than that.
Oh, it was brilliant. Okay, well, I'm going to go back to Bridgend on the end of September and our win against the Stormers, because I thought maybe you might go to the Scarlets games and the Benson games. So, and it was just I think what really made me happy, and it paid tribute to two people who've left it this year, was the try we scored in injury time to get the bonus point. And it was fantastic take by Adam in the line out, and we drove it over. And just to see the joy on Toby's face at the end of that game. I know things didn't quite work out as he would have wanted or we would have wanted, but we are still very grateful for everything Toby put in place during his time at the Ospreys. So hopefully we can build on this for next season, and we'll have a better set of results come the end of next season from our time, and hopefully. And that was nothing on the commentary on Saturday. They kept on saying this is the last game at the Swansea.com, and then somebody must have had a word in the commentator's ear. From what we understand, it's likely to be 2 maybe more home games before we go to St Helens, and unless it clashes with the Swans fixtures, they'll be at the .com. So, but anyway, that aside, hopefully we can have an even better set of results over the course of next season, and those little slip-ups won't be there, and perhaps later in the when we have a later podcast, we'll look at some of the games away, which possibly might, will rue or certainly look to improve upon next year. Just to say, if you enjoyed the pod, please subscribe. I'll give us a like. And I think that's about it for this evening, if that's okay, gents, unless you've got anything you want to add.
I'd like to just pay tribute to Dan Lydiate. His last game on the weekend, and a real servant to Welsh rugby, to the Dragons, to the Ospreys, to Wales, to the Lions. What a player! He was Supporters Club Player of the Season back in 1920. In what was not a great year for us, but Dan Lydiate was almost a shining light that year in terms of showing people, it doesn't matter where you are in the league, how the team are performing. Okay, an individual can stand out and make such a difference. What a player! And thank you, Dan, for everything he's done.
No, totally agree. And it was very telling, wasn't it, that obviously the Dragons fans were on their feet, clapping him up, but so were all the Osprey fans.
Oh, yeah.
It was great. Yeah. Josh, anything you want to add?
Yeah, my GCSE English presentation, I got to pick an inspirational person, and everyone picked Mandela, Gandhi. I went Dan Lydiate because it was back in 2012. He'd come back from his broken neck. Yeah. And I couldn't think of a better person, to be honest.
Anyway, that's a great way to end. And I'm assuming you passed your GCSE English?
Yeah, just about.
More celebrations. Grant might have something to celebrate as well tomorrow. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully you've enjoyed the podcast, and hopefully you'll get some proper presenter in place for next week. Have a great week.